Live from Orlando, Florida, you're listening to the Orlando Magic HQ podcast, the voice of Magic fans. Join us every week for a unique fan perspective on all of the latest Magic news and updates. The show starts now.
What's up, Magic fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Orlando Magic HQ podcast, brought to you by the Believe Podcast Network and Bet Online. We're your hosts, Al, myself, Anthony. Today is Friday, September 27th. We're recording this Thursday night, September 26th, and we're definitely feeling the impacts of Hurricane Helene. One of those. One of them. So if you're not in Florida, man, the hurricane is shifted more towards the west. So it's not hitting us directly, but man, my windows have been shaking. My trees have been dancing. The wind has been screaming. It's going to rain here in the next few. We have tornado warnings in all of Central Florida till the morning, flood warnings in all of Central Florida till the morning. Gotta love hurricane season, right? It's amazing.
It's crazy, man. I was just telling my wife on Monday, like, hey, I think we might get lucky this year and not have one because it's already October. So I'm like, we might get lucky. Right. And just as I said that, the news started developing of this storm kind of forming. It may become a hurricane. I'm like, okay, I jinxed it. So here we are. I mean, thankfully in Orlando, we're not going to deal with it too much. But if you are on the West Coast listening to this, Tallahassee, some of Georgia as well, be careful, stay safe because this storm is a massive one.
Yeah, man. It was supposed to be. I'm not sure if it's gone into Category 4 territory. It should, because they said that it was going to be a Cat 4 by the time it touches down in Florida. But the one that hit, Central Florida, Kissimmee, about a good year, 2 years ago, was pretty rough, man. It was really rough. It was the first time, and maybe because this was probably the first major hurricane that I've experienced as a homeowner. Man, it was stressful. So,
yes.
The joke in Florida is, we party and, we don't take hurricanes serious, but, that was one to take serious. And, man, hopefully if you're being impacted, if you're in the line of sight of this hurricane, that you're prepared. If you had to evacuate, you evacuated. Your life is way more important than any property or anything like that. So, really hope that, everyone is safe. Everyone is everyone's property. Everything is good. And then we continue into what's coming up next, which is getting excited about Media Day, which Al and BJ you'll be there representing. So that's really excited. The minute that Media Day gets here, it's like fast speed, and we're off to the next. And this off season has been a little. I don't want to say quiet, but there was a lot of some excitement or some adjustments that we're going to need to get used to, and one of those adjustments was Woj retiring from the ESPN, which was kind of left field, and I want to talk about that before we jump into Orlando Magic discussion. But before we do, quick word from our sponsors, Bet Online. Bet Online is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. BetOnline has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads to bet on during the games. Think you know your stuff? Get in on our 200,000 mega contest and pick 5 games against your spread every week for your chance at weekly prizes and a share of 200,000. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino, get in on a game of blackjack or poker, or unwind with one of our over 150 slot games. Head to the website today to get in on the action. Bet Online, the game starts here. So, man, for the last good amount of years, it's been Woj, it's been Shams. This is kind of how, they've changed the way that we receive information, right? The days of, seeing the ticker at the bottom of, ESPN and NBA TV and whatever case may be, those days are gone, right? I mean, you still see that, but that's not where you're getting your information from. The days of, going on hoopshype.com or realgm.com, or waiting for an article to pop up on Orlando Sentinel on the paper, those days are gone. These are some of the guys that really revolutionized the way that we see breaking news when it comes to basketball and sports in general, right? So how much of a big deal do you see Woj retiring really being? Do you see the landscape changing in any way? Or is it going to be just filtered just from Shams, or do you believe that someone is going to fill his shoes? Like, do you even care that he's retiring? I know you and I, we've had discussions where, the NBA draft just kind of sucked. Like it's my only complaint when it came to, those guys is that, you couldn't really enjoy the draft the way that we wanted to. But now that the Magic really aren't in the draft like that, it's in the lottery, we really don't care about it. But what are your thoughts on him retiring?
Yeah, man. So I think it's going to be different, right? He's the godfather. He's the one that changed the game when it came to like how we follow the news. I also grew up like you, man. Real GM, Hoops Hype. That's how I got all my news. I remember, free agency at midnight. I would go to Hoops Hype and just refresh like crazy. A Real GM, trying to find anything Magic related that was going on.
Simple time.
So, yeah, man. And now we went to a time where you just keep refreshing Twitter. That's what you do. X, right? That's a new name. I keep forgetting that. So it's going to be different, man. I think that he laid the groundwork for what Shams is doing. Everyone else that now is an NBA reporter, insider is doing. He was the first one. So it's sad in a way to see him go because, again, we got so used to the Woj bombs and he's the one that you go to for all the news. But at the end of the day, I think nothing much is going to change. I think that Shams is going to pick up right after him and be the main guy now. And we'll see who steps up now for ESPN as that insider. I think somebody else will come. We'll see who it is in the next few weeks or months. But in the same token, it was weird that ESPN today announced that Zach Lowe got let go as well. So now you lose
left field.
Woj, Zach Lowe. I'm like, you're losing some major, people that we follow for news on ESPN. One of the few ones, because everybody else is just there to create drama and just, hot takes. These are the few ones that I would follow in ESPN for actual NBA news. So ESPN is changing a little bit. And unfortunately, they're the ones that you kind of go to for, national TV games other than TNT for the next year. So the landscape is changing quite a bit. I'm not sure that I'm a fan of it, but I'm sure we'll adapt and we'll see what comes next. But definitely will be missed seeing Woj, break some news and be the one guy you go to for all the latest. But let's see.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you got Stephen A. Smith that he's trying to be the highest paid analysts or TV personality for ESPN. This man is looking to get $100 million. So, there's talks about ESPN trying to lure in either Chris Haynes or Shams. I mean, that's really what it is, man. You can't have too many of those big names that you're paying crazy money to, especially when ESPN is kind of like Apple in a sense. Like people are going to buy Apple. Like they're just going to do that. People are going to watch ESPN. They're just going to do that. And if you can replace somebody as expensive as Zach Lowe with somebody that's either half the price or you minimize on those costs, because you think about it, they lose Zach Lowe, they lose Woj, they lose JJ Redick. They're losing a lot of their expensive guys.
That's true.
And they're still going to end up spending that money. It's Disney that we're talking about. But it's just a matter of, who they're going to spend that money on, and is it really worth it? So it's going to be an interesting dynamic. But at the same time, man, this is kind of where the landscape is when it comes to NBA information. I do think it is super dope for somebody like Woj to step away at his peak, like his prime. Like this man is like the Michael Jordan of breaking news, and Shams is like the Kobe Bryant of breaking news, and the fact that he decided to step down to be the general manager of his alma mater, like to me that is dope, man. It's him choosing happiness and the love of what he wants to wake up and do every day, because I can only imagine how frustrating his job is, being glued to his phone, 24/7. I'm not sure if he's married or has a family. I don't know any details like that, but if he was, I can only imagine how frustrating it is for, the people that, interact with him on a day-to-day basis outside of his work life.
Yeah. I mean, we do 1% of what he does. And it's tough. You know, our wives, we have to deal with them. We have to thank them for the fact that they allow us to do this and to follow a team like we do and record a podcast and do all the things that we do. Imagine doing it to that degree, man. So it's understandable, you know. To your point, I think it's admirable the fact that he walked away, you know, in his terms when he wanted to do something that he really is passionate to do. I think that's a dream that we all have, right? To one day be able to say, hey, we worked hard our whole lives. We now decide to kind of step away, do a job that maybe we enjoy more, or we want to do something different in our careers. So good for him that he was able to get to this point. But definitely, you know, not an easy job at all.
Yeah, so shout out to Woj for making that decision. Shout out to Dwight Howard, Dancing with the Stars. I'm not sure if you saw his performance, but he went out there and he killed it. Hopefully all that positive energy and people seeing him, you know, dance and having a good time makes, you know, people forget about all the other off-court stuff. It's a good PR move, man. If you're dealing with some bad PR, you know, Dancing with the Stars, if Diddy is able to make it out of whatever it is that he's making it out of, Dancing with the Stars might be the route for him to go. Anyways, let's talk about Magic news, all right? So, yeah, man, we got training camp coming up very, very soon. Media Day is first. And a couple things I wanted to talk about. Paolo had some pretty awesome quotes that was really nice to hear kind of what his mindset is going into the season. And he talked about the playoff series. And his quote saying that playoff series, that loss we took, that's been my whole motivation this summer. I just think that we ran out of gas. So for somebody as young as Paolo Banchero to still like lingering, right, still have that feeling of we were this close. You know, that this was a team that we could have beaten. We should have beaten. Just kind of got a little tired at the end. That tire can be a million different things, right? It can be physically. It can be mentally. You know, it's a game 7. Like your first playoff experience is a game 7 against Cleveland. You're going up against, you know, a stud like Donovan Mitchell. You know, I love the fact that they're still talking about it, because I will take whatever chip on your shoulder that you need to go into the season and kind of take the season and put it in a chokehold. Because the biggest thing that we can learn from last season that I hope we carry into the season is that every single game matters. Like that random game on a Tuesday against the Charlotte Hornets, like we can't take those games for granted, right? We can't just kind of look at that as an easy game, check mark, on to the next one, because that's something that can easily be done, especially in an 82 game, you know, season. So the mindset has to be, man, like last season, if we would have had just, you know, a couple more games that went our way, if we would have took this game a little more serious, or you know, if we didn't go out the night before, you know, our team is young. Not saying that they did. I don't. Who knows, right? But you know, if we would have did just a little bit more, that would have got us over the hump. Top 4 seed, home court advantage. You're looking at a completely different series. So, your thoughts on Paolo's quote, man? Is that what you want to hear from Paolo Banchero?
I mean, my favorite part of it was the fact that he used it as motivation all off season long to get better. And we knew that was going to happen no matter what. But in that sense, I'm kind of glad that he had the summer off. He didn't end up getting the call up to the USA team because, let's be honest, he was going to be riding the bench the entire time that he was there. So I like the fact that he got to, you know, go back, spend the time working on his body, on his craft, and that he used this as motivation to drive him, you know, into the new season. I think it's going to play wonders for him this upcoming season, for the team as well. So you love to hear that. And to your point, to echo that message, Coach Mosley recently did an interview with NBA.com talking about the upcoming season, and he echoed that same message. The fact that one big learning lesson for this team was that every game mattered. And I think he used the example of a random game in January may cost you, you know, the 4th seed in the East. So every game matters. That's a learning lesson, because I guarantee you these young guys would wake up sometimes and be like, you know what, today against Charlotte, we may not be feeling it. Whatever if we lose. Well, guess what? When April 15th comes and the season ends and you're now the 5th seed instead of the 4th, it matters. So I think that was a big awakening for them. They had to go through this. We kept saying it throughout all of last year. They have to go through the ups and downs. that loss, game 7 after leading by 18, is a huge down. But trust me, Jaylen Suggs, Franz, Paolo, all those guys, they'll learn from it. They'll get better because of it. And again, we'll get to see this year, what that means on the court. But I think mentally, physically, they'll be a much better team this year. And that experience is going to help them.
That's the part that I'm excited about the most. You're talking about year 4 Franz, year 3 Paolo. You're bringing in a player like KCP. So this mindset is coming from a more experienced approach, which is awesome. Paolo was recently on First Take last month, and he said that we're trying to make some noise, and I think that we should easily be a top 4, top 3 team. This is how we should be talking. This is a conversation. This is when we talk about last season it was more about expectations, right? We need to get better. It was at the very least in the beginning of the season when we discussed it, we were saying we're 100% a playing team. Like that's the expectation going into the season. As we go on, the Magic are more legit than we thought. All right, so it's no longer playing, it's making the playoffs. Now this season the goal needs to be home court advantage first round. Like that's got to be the floor for us. Forget making it into the playoffs. We need every advantage that we can get. We want to get out of the first round. We were at the finish line. We were right there. You were in Cleveland yourself. You saw the finish line. So I love that that's the conversation. I love that that's the mindset. I love hearing most echoing that same message, because it needs to be something that needs to be hit on the head all season long. Like it needs to be ingrained. And this is the reason why you bring in a veteran like KCP to this team, and the fact that these young dogs got a little taste of it. Man, you can see that they want more. And the fact that we're so close and being able to kind of see this live, you and I, we were having a conversation the other day, and the conversation was like, we already know that we're making the playoffs. Like we gotta get these graphics created for the playoffs. Like we're already talking about that, and we haven't even hit media day. Not trying to jinx it, knock on wood, but let's be real here. Like something drastically has to go wrong for the Magic not making it. So I'm excited for this upcoming season. And there's so many different storylines that we can kind of pinpoint to be excited about. KCP, his dynamic, Paolo Banchero, year 3, we're expecting him. We're going to talk about it now, but could he be in the MVP caliber conversation? Anthony Black, Jet Howard, what are we going to see from them going into their sophomore season? And then we have De Silva. Like, is he going to get more minutes than Jet Howard and Anthony Black? Are we going to be able to see more impact? Was that the right move? So there's a lot of different elements that we can pinpoint to and be excited about. But what are you thinking on Paolo Banchero's comments on believing that we can be a top 4, top 3 team?
Yeah, man, it's not going to be easy. I think we talked about it a little bit in our last episode. It's going to be a tough Eastern Conference, man. There's a lot of good teams this year. The Knicks are starting off the year with an injury, so maybe, that's a team that starts a little slow because of it. And we can take advantage of that. I think we played them 3 or 4 times in the first few months, so there's some advantage that we can take early on. You love to see Paolo with this mindset. You love to see, our young guys with this mindset of, hey, 3-4 seed in the East, that should be the goal this upcoming season. Last year, it was the play-in. And what did we do? We surpassed those goals. So this year, you got to head into media day, training camp with the mindset of, hey, we were 5th last year. We got to aim higher this year. That's the goal. I don't care how many wins that is, but we got to finish 3rd, 4th, 2nd in the East, ideally. Again, I'm going to repeat myself many times over the next few months saying this. It's not going to be easy. It's not guaranteed by any means, but it starts with the mindset. And I think the mindset that Coach Mosley has, that Paolo has, is the right one heading into the season. And I'm sure that next week we'll hear this over and over again. That's what everyone on the team's expecting. Top 4 in the East. Don't care what Philly did. Don't care what Miami, Boston, whoever did in the East. We care about what we're doing, what we're building, internal improvement, and we go from there. So I think You love hearing that as a fan. And I love the fact that me and you are starting this year already thinking, hey, playoffs, graphics for the playoffs. Like, we have not done that ever, since we've been doing this together. So the fact that we're doing this for the first time, man, it's been years since we enter a season knowing for sure that we expect to make the playoffs. Even last year felt like probably, but it was more like playing aspirations. Now it's a little bit different. So hopefully things play out for us. Hopefully, nothing crazy happens and we can definitely make that happen because I think the expectations throughout the entire city is that Orlando will be playing, April basketball, May basketball heading into next year.
Yeah, and listen, the East is not. If you remember last season, the East was extreme. It was an extremely close race. Like you're talking about, Magic wins 3 more games. They're tied for second place in the East. Mm-hmm. If they lose 1 game, then they're tied with Miami for 8th. Yep. It's one of those things where they really got to buckle down. They got to believe it. They got to go out there and do it and play their identity, their basketball. The front office say they're always against the word culture. They don't like using that word, right? But we've created that here. We've created an identity, and we have to lean into it. And hopefully, what we're expecting this season is that our identity changes a little bit, right? We add on to it. And that addition should be our 3-point shooting. Is what we're hoping to see. But there's definitely a lot of belief. There was a video that was circulating around a couple of days ago with the Orlando Magic and TMZ. TMZ caught up with Wendell Carter at the airport. And for a second, you get scared, man, because TMZ and anyone associated with it, it's normally not for good things, right? It's normally for something super sleazy. So for a brief second, your heart kind of skips a beat. You see TMZ, you see Wendell Carter, and they're talking about Paolo. But pretty much they were just catching up with Wendell, and Wendell was saying that he believes Paolo can make the jump to elite status and be an MVP candidate, and the team can also make a jump and reach the Eastern Conference Finals. So Sheesh. Huge, man, to go from, first round exit to Eastern Conference Finals is not an easy thing to do. There's a lot of elements that you can kind of look at, right? New York has gotten better. Milwaukee, they were dealing with injury in their first season with Giannis and Dame, so you know that they're going to be back. Donovan Mitchell isn't having his contract issue anymore of people believing that he might be leaving, and his little rumored arguments with the rest of the team. And Indiana also another team that they got better and they're still needing some time to gel. Miami was in a funky place. They always do well. Philly now, they've gotten better. So this season is going to be it's not going to be easy, man. The East is going to be tough. It's going to be tough. So do you believe in what Wendell said, and is the Eastern Conference Finals a pipe dream, or is it, if everything goes right, is it obtainable?
If everything goes right, I would say yeah. And I would say that, think of Indiana last year. When would you have thought that Indiana early in the season was going to make it to the Eastern Conference Finals last year? So what I mean by that is, if things play out for us the way that they did for Indiana, which is, Giannis got hurt, then a bunch of Knicks players got hurt. So they kind of, let's be honest, they got lucky to some degree in their run. Yeah, they acquire a great player at the trade deadline. So if things kind of shape out that way for us this season, of course that can happen. But in a realistic world, me as a realistic fan, I think if you make the second round of the playoffs, that is a major win this year. You keep building from there, and you kind of keep developing the team and growing from there. But again, I'm going to say it. I love the mindset. I love the fact that they're not shying away from saying, we're going to be better. Paolo's going to be a beast. Like, I love hearing these things because, again, it starts mentally with this team at such a young age. And they're not afraid, man. We saw it last year. They beat Boston a bunch of times. They beat the Knicks. They beat the Lakers. They're not afraid of the so-called big teams in the NBA. So it starts with the mindset. So I love the fact that Wendell is saying these things and backing up his teammate. But realistically, man, winning the MVP is not easy. Making it to the Eastern Conference Finals, it's not going to be easy. But it starts with belief. So let's keep believing.
Yeah, and listen, if there's one thing that the Magic need to have to even think about having a successful season, Magic got to stay healthy. As long as the Magic can stay healthy, who knows? Like there's no limit of what they're able to do, right? I was a little pissed off with Woj's comments recently. He was talking about, I guess it was his press conference, his introductory press conference as a general manager for, his alma mater. And he was talking about, they were asking him where does he plan to be, like at the start of the season? Does he plan to be in LA? Does he plan to be in Boston? Does he plan to be in Oklahoma City with, the greatest young team in the NBA? Like, we're being left out. I'm taking those things personal. It had nothing to do with the Orlando Magic, but you're talking about the best young team in the NBA. Why are we not in that conversation? Like, why can't you be in Orlando? Why was Orlando an option? And I say that to say nobody knows what this team is capable of being, but we can see that happen as long as we continue to stay healthy. And we're starting to get some of that respect, right? So CBS Sports, they came out with their list of NBA top 100 players, and the Magic had a total of 4 players in the top 100, which is awesome to see. Paolo at 29, who was previously at 51. Franz now at 51, who was previously 47. KCP, previously 99. He's at 95, so a new addition, so we'll take that freebie. And then Jaylen Suggs at number 70, where he was previously not ranked. And I think that you can point at that list. You expect Paolo, you expect Franz. KCP is cool to see on there. But Jaylen Suggs, man, hell of a season last year. Definitely someone that, is most improved in my eyes. The big question now remains, can he replicate that? Can we see him do that again? Is this a one season off? Or is this really the Jaylen Suggs that we're going to be getting? Like, did he really improve that much? And the biggest question, if he did, the next question would be, how much is that worth to you? How much are you willing to pay? You just paid Franz. You're going to pay Paolo. How much is Jaylen Suggs worth to you? And this was a conversation with our guy, Brandon Kravitz from 96.9 The Game. He had a conversation with Mike Ginnity. I really hope I pronounce his name right, from Sport Track. And they had this to say regarding Jaylen Suggs and his extension. Something around 4 for $115 million seems to be the number that I keep hearing about Jaylen Suggs. So 115 for 4 years, Jaylen Suggs. How do you feel about that number? Do you feel like that number is too high? Do you feel like it's too low? Do you feel like it's just right? How are you feeling having that much of a financial commitment towards Jaylen Suggs?
I think it's right where it needs to be. I think that is what some other players like him that are defensive-minded, 3-and-D guys have gotten. So I think that 4 for 115, 120, it's in that range. I think we'll see something, maybe starting off on the higher end and declining. So you might see the contract be $35 million his first year, $32 the second, and so forth. But I think it's right in line, man. I think Jaylen Suggs at this moment is a $30 million player. The big question that I have, and I know some Magic fans don't like to hear this, is that the front office might be thinking, number one, it's got to stay healthy. You got to replicate what you did last year. It cannot be a fluke. So for that reason, hey, man, the check is right here. We're going to sign it. But you got to do it once again. And I think for that reason, we may not see a contract extension take place by October 21st, which is a deadline. And I know some of our listeners, diehard listeners that we have, our big-time Sox fans, are not liking it when I say that. But from the front office standpoint, I completely understand why they would do that. Jaylen Suggs had a lot of injuries. He was very inconsistent his first 2 years. So as a front office about to sign a big check to this guy, who are you? Are you the first couple of years Jaylen Suggs, or are you last year's Jaylen Suggs? We got to figure that out, and we need some time to do this. So the question is, have they seen it already throughout the offseason? Have they seen him, at practice, whatever it may be, and they're sold by training camp and preseason and say, you know what, let's ink him right now? Or do they want to hold off, like I said, have him play 82 more games, and hey, man, this contract is sealed for you. We just got to see you replicate this play from last year once again, because, and I mean, it might work out to his favor. Maybe this 115, 120 becomes 150, 160 if he can do even a better job this year than he did last year. So I think the contract numbers are right where I think they need to be. But my question to you is, if you were Jeff Weltman, Anthony Parker, what will you do? Would you sign him if you see him play well throughout training camp, preseason, and you know what, just get out of the way, let's focus on Paolo next year? Or do you think that they should wait and see him replicate his performance before they give him a 4 or 5 year contract, whenever they do that?
Man, I think that's the hardest part about being in the front office is it really comes down to your belief. Like, do you believe that Franz Wagner is worth the money that we gave him? Right. And this is after he came off of a terrible 3-point shooting, year. Right. Do you believe that he can overcome that? If you do believe that, then you give him that money. If you believe that his value is still there, same with Jonathan Isaac. If you have belief in him, then he's still on your team. Same question. Do you have that belief that Markelle Fultz can overcome his injuries and be the player that we've seen him, not what we project him to be as the number 1 pick in the NBA draft, right? But the player that we believe he can be, that we've already seen in a Magic uniform? The answer was no. They didn't, right? They had other priorities over that. And we're not in a position where we should or could or would like to have that belief, right? I think for Jaylen Suggs, if you have that belief that that's really him, I think that it's a huge sample size. This man shot damn near 40% off of 5 attempts a game from the 3-point line. Nobody else is doing that on our team. Like, they're not. We had to go get the guy to be able to do that. We had to go get KCP and spend money on him to get a guarantee so that Jaylen Suggs ain't the only one doing that. Right? So, I don't know. Like, this is the way that I see it. We got KCP in free agency. But from the Orlando Magic front office perspective, that was their number 1 guy. But we were hearing the noise. There's a lot of people that wanted Paul George.
Yep.
A lot of people that wanted Klay Thompson. There was a lot of people that wanted the Magic to go get the big fish, right? KCP is not the big fish. He's like a medium-sized fish. You catch a fish, you take a picture with it, and you put it back in the water, right? But he's not the fish that you take home and you put on your wall. It's just not. That's not where we're at. Could we be at that point where we do get, the big name free agency? Maybe. But what if we don't? You go with the guarantee. Jaylen Suggs fit with this team. You know what he brings. He matches the identity. I say you give him the money. Me personally, I believe from the sample size that we receive, I believe that Jaylen Suggs is worthy of that contract. The drawback of it, right, is what if he takes another leap? What if he becomes the Jaylen Suggs that we believe that we were drafting, right? Because he's already shown a glimpse of that, right? Then we have to pay more. Can we afford that? Right? So that's the risk. That's a hard line to walk.
That's the risk, right? And that's where it's a tough decision. Like, I see it from both sides. If they do not sign him by October 21st, I can see why. I understand the reasoning behind it. But, that's adding fuel to Jaylen Suggs. So, you know what? Okay, I understand. Let me go out there and ball out again. but you got to pay me more come June of next year. So I guess that would be something where you're saying, Jaylen, it's all in your court. You can either get paid more, you can get what we're thinking of giving you now. It's all on you. And who is to say that the Magic didn't make an offer already and say, you know what, we'll give you maybe not 115, we'll give you 105. And Jaylen's pushing for 120, let's say. And he is saying, I'm a bet on myself. There's a lot of things that maybe are going on behind the scenes that we don't know about. Whatever it is, I have no doubt in my mind of one thing. The core of this team is Paolo Banchero, Franz Wagner, Jaylen Suggs. There's no debating that. And I think a fourth, when healthy, would be Jonathan Isaac at this moment. Like that to me is the core that you say, who's the guys that are going to be in this team for the next potentially 4, 5, 6 years? It's in my mind, those four. Everyone else, you can kind of shift around. You can trade for a star, whatever you want to do. But that's my core. So all that to say, Jaylen Suggs not going anywhere. That's why I'm not concerned, because whether it happens by October 21st or it happens next offseason, he's not going anywhere. The question is, how much are you going to pay him? Is he going to earn himself a larger contract? We'll see. Is he going to agree to whatever they're offering him now? We'll see. But as a Magic fan, in my mind, do not worry. I don't think Jaylen Suggs going anywhere. He's a guy that we'll see in Orlando for a long, long time. He's exactly what this front office envisions in a player. He's got size. He plays hard. He's a team player. So why would you let that go? It reminds me a little bit of, in the sense of Cole Anthony. That's why he's lasted here so long. It's the locker room presence, the positivity. He's that guy that glues, that puts the glue together for these guys. So in the same way, I see Jaylen Suggs as well. But it's going to be interesting for sure to see how things play out over the next 3 weeks, because we may get a new contract, we may not. But ultimately, like I said, I don't think it matters at the end of the day.
The Orlando Magic are just a couple days away from Media Day on September 30th. October 1st, training camp starts. Then we're jumping right into our first preseason game on October 7th. October 21st will be a last day for the Orlando Magic to agree to a contract extension with Jaylen Suggs. So it's a day to mark on your calendar and circle. Then you got opening night, October 23rd against the Miami Heat. And then the home opener against the Ben Simmons-led Brooklyn Nets.
He's back.
Hey, man, he's back, man. They're saying that he's Chris Brickley. He's putting his cap down. He's saying, I'm putting my name on it. It's back to the Ben Simmons that everyone knows. That would be crazy. It would be crazy if he came out and just started smashing people. I'd root for it.
He may do that for like maybe a week, and then his lower back's gonna start hurting again, and we won't see him for 6 months.
I'd root for it. Not on October 25th. I wouldn't root for it. Any other day, I'd root for it. But man, it was fun recording this episode. I felt like it's been a few weeks where we're gonna start transitioning to the off season's over, so you'll start to hear these podcasts now coming out back on a regular basis. As well as our social media and engagement. We got a lot of things that are coming out, man. So appreciate everyone for listening. Orlando Magic basketball. What season is this for us? What number is this? Season
for the podcast or the actual
for the podcast?
Magic?
We 5? We 6?
6. Crazy.
6? Oh man,
wild.
6.
I'm getting old.
Jesus, 6. It's our 6th season. Damn, we started this in my mid-20s. Whew. All right, man. It's a wrap. Appreciate everyone listening. Show is sponsored by Bet Online. Catch you guys soon.
For all the latest Magic news and updates, visit OrlandoMagicHQ.com and follow us on Instagram at Orlando Magic HQ and on Twitter at OMagicHQ. Also, remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel and subscribe and leave a 5-star review on your favorite listening platform.